All right, welcome to our series on codes. And notice that we did not say cardiac arrest. We're going to talk about the difference a little bit later as we learn that not all codes are technically cardiac arrests to begin with. We'll get more into that later when we talk about the different types of codes that we classify in the pre-hospital setting. But to kick things off, we're going to first start off by talking about the platform that we perform CPR within, which is our game plan here in Trinity County, and we now like to call this Crew Cpr 2.0. Why 2.0? Well, 2.0 because we did not throw away the old system. Obviously, the original Crew Cpr model is part of our protocol, and it works fantastic. The additions that we've made to it are really more to do two things. One, we wanted to compress and simplify a few things that are a little misleading and a little confusing in the way they're detailed in the protocol. Again, we want to tailor this to some of our, speaking for myself here, more our firefighter brains that don't want to overcomplicate things. And then two, we also wanted to, while we were compressing and simplifying it, we also wanted to expand on a few things too that were not being addressed, to fill roles that were not being addressed in the protocol that would still help us run a code smoother. So this is our model, Crew Cpr 2.0. And the way that we think about this is we came up with this system more out of trying to replicate the organization that we have when we go actually to a fire scene. If we were dealing with something like a structure fire, there's always established roles at the scene. And you could come into that fire ground and let's say that communications or radio frequencies were to all just go black for some reason. Most experienced firefighters could still pretty much show up on scene, take a look at what's going on, and knowing their local SOPs and SOGs, they could pretty much figure out where they needed to be even without someone telling them if they know what they're doing. Same thing in the tactical world. If you're clearing a room, you can come into a room, not be told anything, and you can know exactly where in the room you need to be based on where everybody else is in the room. And so we wanted to take the same model and apply it to CPR. Again, this is a high-stress situation, and so we wanted to create a model that was expanding on the pit crew model to where anyone could come in the door at any moment with very little information at 2 in the morning, half asleep, look at the situation before them and know exactly what role they need to fill next based on priority and most critical nature. So, hence the Crew Cpr 2.0 model. So the model is divided up really into two different sections, if you will. The first, well, we think of this all in terms of kind of a baseball field, if you will. The first is the baseball diamond itself. We call this loading the bases. And so the bases are, just like on a baseball diamond, 4 roles. And again, we call them our 4 bases that we need to fill first right off the bat. And these are really essential to actually functioning in the code. This is mostly the original pit crew model. But then we add an additional layer to it that we then call filling the outfield. And that is called as such because it's not as important as the bases. It's not necessarily critical to the patient surviving, but it does help boost our efficacy and efficiency at the scene to hopefully getting ROSC. So we'll talk about the two different sections, and we'll start off with, of course, the first and most important, which is loading the bases. As we go into these next couple of videos as we discuss this model, keep in mind again that everything that you're about to hear is presented in the order of importance. And that matters because when we're talking about coming into the room at 2 in the morning and you look around the room, this is the order of importance that you have to memorize so that after that you can subconsciously look into the room at the situation and you can see what's been filled and what hasn't been filled. And the next thing down the list that's the most important that hasn't been filled yet, that's where you go. So, it's that simple. Here we go.